Bob's Breakfast.
It's an odd thing, isn't it? The whole Christmas shopping phenomenon.
Oh, I hate it.
The thing is, you often get stuff you don't want.
Mm.
You have to pretend you like it.
Yeah.
I mean, like socks.
Every year.
But we never want them. Women always buy men's socks. We never want socks, ladies. We don't. The message we get when you give us the gift of socks is, you didn't even try. Do you actually think we want socks? How would you like it if all we got for you was a pair of tights? I mean, really, that's the same. That's what we're doing. There'd be hell to pay.
Yeah.
Do you know who does want socks?
Who's that?
The homeless. When they ask for the number one gift item that homeless shelters ask for, they want socks, but it's hardly ever what gets donated. Homeless shelters are inundated with gloves and hats and scarves, but not socks. And socks have all kinds of health benefits, you know, wet feet and all the rest of it. The homeless want socks. So, I mean, one of the great paradoxes of the festive season is that we lap up Christmas messages of goodwill and the true meaning of Christmas fed to us by Dickens and Schultz and Dr. Seuss, you know, Scrooge, Snoopy, the Grinch. They're busy reminding us what Christmas should be all about. And we lap it up. But we're so busy spending money, we don't have to buy people we don't like things that they don't want, that we don't have time to do anything to make a difference. Really, if you're thinking about giving a gift this year and you're thinking about giving the gift of socks, how about donating some socks to a homeless shelter or a homeless charity? That would be a way better idea, wouldn't it?
Great idea.
And there are actual charities that specialise it. One of them's called Socks and Chocks.
Really?
Another one's called Bombus. Another one's called The Joy of Socks, which I kind of like the name
genius,
of.
yeah.
No, really, that would be a proper Christmas stocking. Good morning, I'm Graham Mack. David Cameron says he wants the RAF to go in and bomb Syria. What do you reckon, Simon?
It reminds me of an old Star Trek song.
Hmm.
We come in peace, shoot to kill.
Right. Yeah.
Stupidity.
You don't think we should be bombing in Syria?
Well, the problem we've got is these people don't negotiate.
But no one's tried to negotiate with them.
Well, they have, and they've had their heads cut off.
But more people have had their heads cut off by the Saudis than ISIS. If you're looking for a true Islamic state that has Sharia law and all the things that ISIS want, look no further than Saudi Arabia, our friends and allies.
So why don't we ask Saudi Arabia to talk to the Black Flag people?
Exactly. Why aren't the countries in the region, the mega-rich countries of Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and others, these countries are mega-rich and are heavily armed, massive militaries. Why aren't they sorting out the problem in their own backyard? Now, they say that the Russian plane came down as a retaliation for Russia's involvement in Syria, and they say the French attacks were because of France's involvement. Which does that mean? Does that mean by that logic, if those two countries weren't involved, the problems would be contained to the Middle East?
Allegedly.
Well, you could make that conclusion. I hope whatever they do, if it is bombing, I hope it works. But I can't see a model of where it's worked before.
Well, it's Iraq War 3. The Empire tries to strike back.
Wasn't bombing in Afghanistan and Iraq? Isn't that what? That's why we have ISIS, because of that.
Yeah.
So I hope that it works. If they do go ahead, if Britain does get involved, I hope it works. But I hope it's the right thing to do. I hope it doesn't make things worse and make us more of a target.
Have you thought of a career in the diplomatic service, sir?
I don't think they would enjoy my straight talking.
I don't know. Sometimes your opinions seem to be...
Well, I don't know. That's when it's scary. If the opinions of someone a disc jockey who makes his living from fart jokes become more important than what the leaders of this country are saying, well, then we're all in trouble. Let's get the latest news now with Chris Hubbard.
You can get your hands on David Beckham's old Range Rover Sport. Bit of a snip because he's expected to have spent around £100,000 on this. Now it's going up for auction and thought to go for about £25,000.
And if you do buy it, just a warning, don't suddenly think, hey, look, Victoria Beckham's still in here. That's the gear stick. On the phone is Gary.
Good morning, Graham. Just picking up on one of your stories about the taxi driver who had someone who couldn't wake up.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of years ago, we had a driver called Pete.
Yes.
Now, Pete had a girlfriend in Brighton.
Right.
Pete had just gone through a divorce and bought himself a Porsche.
Right.
So Pete used to live in Stevenage, so he'd work his Saturday nights, and then what he used to do, drive down to Brighton to meet his girlfriend.
In his Porsche?
In his Porsche, because what he'd do, he'd work his night shift in Hertford, drive up to Stevenage, get the Porsche, drive down to Brighton.
Right.
One particular night, 6 blokes got in to his car and decided to give him a little bit of a run around. They were paying for his fare, which was fine, and he ended up in Enfield.
Right.
So he thought to himself, I'm not going to bother driving all the way back to Stevenage, I'm just going to drive to Brighton.
In his taxi?
So, in his taxi.
Yeah.
So he had a Galaxy. So as he was driving in to Brighton, the sign said, welcome to Brighton, the sun was coming up, and suddenly he heard a cough. He looked in the mirror, right in the back seat, so a head popped up. So he'd actually took one of his passengers to Brighton.
And he only wanted to go to Enfield.
And he only wanted to go to Enfield. So Peter, who'd been a really nice bloke, decided, right, enough's enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some fuel in and I'm going to drive back there. I'm going to explain to the bloke that I've made a mistake.
Yeah.
So as he was pulling in, this bloke went, mate, just pull over here. I'm going to get some cash out.
Right.
So Peter then thought, well, how am I going to tell him that he's actually in Brighton? So Peter pulled over, started to put some fuel in.
Yeah.
The bloke walked up to the cash machine.
Yeah.
Turned round towards Peter to have a look and then promptly ran off.
The bloke ran off thinking he dodged the fare.
The bloke had done a runner in Brighton,
but
and
didn't
he
know
thought he was in.
He didn't know how far away he was from.
No, but what Peter said was the road that he ran down.
Yeah.
He said he'd have ran straight down onto the beach. Could you imagine that bloke's face when he got down there?
Bob's Breakfast.
Well, my night took an odd twist last night.
Why was that?
I got some friends who live in Loughborough, John and Mary, and they're great, and it's always great to catch up with them. And they're flying to Lisbon, and they're flying to Lisbon from Luton. So they decided, we got an email from them a few weeks ago, hey, look, we're flying to Lisbon. What we're going to do, we're going to stay in a hotel near Luton Airport and fly out the following day. And it's Friday, and we'll go out for dinner. What do you reckon? We can have dinner at a hotel. So, yeah, great. So we jack it all up and it's in my diary and everything that Friday, that's what we're going to do. So we go to bed last night. We're actually in bed at 6:15. I know that's early, but when you get towards the end of the week with me, that's late. So I'm in bed. I'm reading and stuff, but we're in bed. Phone goes off. It's John. He goes, we're at the hotel.
Oh, no.
I'm like, that's tonight. Yeah, we're flying tomorrow. And because he had in his email the word Friday. The day flies, I'm thinking that's when we're going out for dinner with John and Mara. That was tonight. It was last night. So I said, I don't know what to do. So I hung up the phone. I said, look, I'll call you back. So I said, Julie said, what are we going to do? She said, we've gone to bed. I said, no. She said, and this is like, I think it was about 40 minutes away from Hitchin. And so I'm like, I said, well, I'll ring him back and I'll say, look, we can make it, at a push. We can make it. We can be there in about an hour. But like, they might be starving hungry. They might be able to wait. So I thought, it's our mistake. So I'll offer that, hoping he's going to go, no, it's okay. Some other time we've mixed it up.
Yeah.
He went, so I'll be there now. He said, yeah, okay, we'll wait. We'll go in the bar.
So you had to
get out of bed. Get out of bed, get ready, get changed, and belt it across. I mean, it was, it involved a bit of the M1. I mean, we're not talking about it wasn't, it was quite a way.
It's not just a tickle up the road, is it?
No, but it was great.
Yeah.
No, it really was great. I mean, we had a good chat. We had a bit of a laugh about things, and they're right into cats, and we're cat people as well. So it was brilliant. It was really good. I'm glad we did it, actually. This morning, I'd like to know, when have you had a diary disorder? when have you just messed it up? You're like, what? That's tonight? Or, and all of a sudden, or you've missed something because you've had the day wrong, or you've got there the day before. or hours before, when you've just messed it up. When has this happened to you? What's your diary disaster story, Nancy?
I went all across London to a fancy dress party dressed as a hillbilly with wires in my hair and the usual stuff, and hat and horrendous outfit. It's a great outfit, but it looked awful.
Yeah.
And I got there, and it was the wrong party. It was a very swish tea party that I went to, all dressed as a hillbilly. So I had to spend the whole of the party in this ridiculous outfit while everybody was in their lovely black dresses and everything. So that was my absolute disaster.
How did that happen? There was a fancy dress party, but was it a different night or something? What was going on?
It was a different party, yeah. The fancy dress party was the week after. So I just got the parties muddled up.
Nancy, thanks for sharing.
Pleasure.
Bob's Breakfast.
So here we are on the edge of World War III, Chris. But the big news is that the Apple Watch 2 is about to be released.
They sold enough of the first one.
They should have called the first one 2, because that's the amount they sold. In an independent survey of owners of the Apple Watch, I have seen one person wearing one, and Martin, who's been flown in from Germany especially for this program, you've also seen somebody wearing one.
Yeah.
That means they've sold 2.
2, and that's it.
Have you ever seen anyone with one?
No.
You've never seen anyone actually wearing an Apple Watch?
I've seen someone with kind of the cheaper equivalent of an
there
Apple
are
Watch,
people with smartwatches, yes, but not the Apple Watch.
Never the Apple Watch.
No, and many times, well, in fact, every time I go into an Apple store, usually when we're out shopping and Julie wants to look at some clothes, and if there's an Apple store nearby, I'll beat you in there, okay? I always meet her by the Apple Watch table, because I know it's not going to be busy and she's going to be able to find me, because there's never anybody around that table.
Do you remember though, recently?
And I take a twit pic of the empty table usually.
do you?
Yeah.
They recently submitted figures and all the sales figures,
Yeah.
and they didn't reveal the individual breakdown of the Apple Watch.
No. Everyone's buying the iPhone. I used to wear a watch, a really good watch. It had multiple time zones on it. It was solar powered. It picked up a radio signal from somewhere in Europe, so it was synchronized and whatever. But when I got my iPhone, I decided I don't need a watch. I've got the time on my phone, and there are clocks everywhere. I'm looking at 5 computer monitors in front of me and an iPad. Every one of them has the time on it. I don't need another. Oh, and I've got a clock in this. Everywhere you go today, there are clocks. There are clocks on the cooker and on the microwave and on the fridge. Everything's got a clock on it. You don't need a watch. The actual watch itself is obsolete. It's just people like them as a jewelry thing. But for this Apple Watch, and one of the features the new Apple Watch has got, it has a front-facing camera.
Oh, really?
So where was the camera before? Taking a picture of your wrist? A back-facing... It mustn't have had a camera.
It mustn't have done. No. I also heard some sort of rumour that if you got it wet, this particular device would squirt the water out back at you.
The new one?
That's probably complete rubbish.
So it has a water pistol feature.
I'd heard this from somewhere.
The thing that's been
probably not
holding
true.
it back. It's the water pistol feature. No, the Apple Watch is probably the most expensive, useless gadget ever created. It was created by the company who made the watch obsolete. It would be like Ford bringing out a steam engine. That's what the Apple Watch. Anyway. But sometimes we are suckers. We are seduced into gadgets because they're beautiful. Gadgets, wonderful things. And I have bought many useless gadgets, and you'd realise this because when you move house as much as I have, every time you go, what did I buy this for? What's the charity shop has got, honestly, Help the Aged. They are the most high-tech Help the Aged anywhere, the ones in Hitchin, because of all the gadgets that I've dropped off there I used to have, remember the flip phone, the StarTAC flip phone?
Oh, yes.
It looked like a Star Trek communicator, one of those phones, about probably 10 years ago. Well, the battery on the back of it, I was on a plane once and was one of these magazines called Sky Mall, and it was, where they just have like things like the cardigan debobbler and the plastic rock where you can hide your key outside your house, but it looks like a rock, and that kind of rubbish, nonsense stuff. In there was a solar-powered battery for the StarTAC phone, and I thought,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's always paranoia, is my phone going to run out of charge? If I have this one, it's got solar, it's going to charge up whenever I leave it out. Only thing is, I keep my phone in my pocket. The only time it comes out of my pocket is when I have it plugged into the charger. So it was completely useless. About 20 quid had to be sent from America. Useless. Absolutely useless. But we're suckers for this stuff.
At what point did you realise that would be useless?
As soon as I got it. As soon as I got it, I put it, that's cool. And then I put it in my pocket and oh, wait a minute.
This is the same thing with my watch. I've got a solar power watch outside, so it all charges up. I keep it in my desk drawer all day.
Yeah, you're gonna
Useless.
have to take it to a tanning salon. You're gonna have to go to a tanning salon and leave your watch on just to charge. Yeah, so what kind of tan is? No, I'm just here to charge my watch.
This is Bob.
World War III. That's what was trending on Twitter yesterday, Chris.
Slightly concerning.
Concerning, but I can't see it getting that out of hand.
Not World War III. People have a lot more sense than to let it escalate, don't they?
I don't know. The problem is the situation was already very complex.
Yeah.
And now it's even more complex. Turkey is part of NATO.
That's right, yeah.
NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation. Right.
I remember back to history GCSE.
There you go. But basically, it used to be NATO versus the Eastern Bloc, didn't it? That's what old-fashioned NATO was. Now that things have softened with the Eastern Bloc and it doesn't really exist in the same way, you have to ask how relevant NATO is these days. But anyway, Turkey part of NATO, so anti-Russian, and they still don't like Russia. Turkey also don't like Assad. Well, it seems that no one apart from Russia does like Assad. Assad is our enemy. He's, and so there's a civil war in Syria where rebels are trying to remove Assad. Now, along the way, ISIS get kicked out of Iraq during the Iraq war. That was us. And we caused ISIS. They ended up teaming up with the rebels against Assad, but then falling out with the rebels and being a separate faction. Now, Turkey are trying to get rid of Assad. They don't seem that bothered about ISIS. They're in league with the rebels. In fact, they've got their own rebels. The Turkmen are there. And this is what's happened. Turkey know that the Russians are bombing the rebels, although they say they're bombing ISIS. But the two of them, ISIS and the rebels, are fighting Assad. So then the Russians invade Turkey's airspace. And it looks like, independently, that is what happened. The Russians are denying it, but it does look like that is what happened because other countries are saying, yeah, we got the radar thing. It looks like that's what you did. Now, the Russians, compared to the West, their military, and especially their air force, is pretty weak compared to, say, America. But to make up for that, the Russians are just quite provocative. We've been hearing stories for years of like Russian bombers seen close to British airspace.
That's right. And people in the past have said, oh, they're just playing games.
Just playing games. And they've done it in America. They've done it up in Alaska. And they bring these bombers, propeller-driven bombers, by the way. They bring these bombers in and they just like mixing it up. So it looks a lot like that's what they were up to, because they were warned by the Turks, look, you're getting a bit close, stay away, stay away. If you come inside, we'll shoot you down. You come inside, we'll shoot you down. But because the Russians play a dangerous game like that, they come inside and they got shot down.
Turkish don't mess around.
No, but they don't like the Russians anyway. So they shoot the plane down. I think the most disturbing thing, the BBC reports in it this morning, is that a Marine in a helicopter, Russian, went in to rescue the pilots of the downed plane. That was fired on and that Marine was killed. Now, I don't know whether the rebels did that or the Turkish or just the Turkmen inside Syria, but whoever, that's bad. That's got to contravene Geneva Convention, hasn't it? You can't, if someone's going in to rescue someone, you've got to let them rescue them, haven't you? You don't shoot the people who...
You would have thought so, wouldn't you?
I think that's worse than downing the plane, because if you've been warned and you go into the airspace, these are military people, these are not civilians, they're at war, you know the rules of engagement, if you invade their airspace, they're going to shoot you down, they've got to protect their borders. I don't think that's as big a deal as shooting the rescue marine in the helicopter. I think that's a way bigger deal. Putin says there'll be consequences.
Absolutely. He described it as a stab in the back.
Is it a stab in the back when he's been bombing the rebels that the Turks are fighting with against Assad? I don't know.
It's such a complicated situation. And the fact that there's so many different groups in Syria as well.
Yeah, there's allies bombing allies here, and it's the whole situation is a complete mess. But we don't want it to escalate between Turkey and Russia, because Turkey is NATO and we are NATO. And America is NATO. So we don't want that to escalate. Sam Kiley writing a piece in the on the Sky News website this morning. He basically sums it up. He says, Russia and Turkey are not friends, but they can't afford to be enemies.
This is Bob.
Still amazed by that face transplant story. What an amazing piece of cosmetic surgery that was. I'd like to know, what have you had done? What's your story? What do you got, Nancy?
It's like a good and a bad plastic surgery.
Okay, yeah.
Have I had changed? Well, I had an ear operation, but to do it, they had to put in behind my ear, so they took my ear off.
They took your ear. They took your ear off. Goodness me!
They had to cut all the way around it and then flap it forward. Anyway, they did the operation. The good thing is I've got perfect hearing.
Yes.
The bad thing is my glasses are wonky because they put it back on about ½ inch lower.
Oh no! I would have thought that's kind of basic. Didn't they mark it? Oh dear. Well, you sound like you're getting on all right in life with the wonky ear.
Yeah, I just can't see straight. I can hear, but I can't.
Right, so your hearing is perfect, but your eyesight is a problem now. All right, Nancy, thanks a lot.
Bob's Breakfast.
The US has issued the worldwide travel alert for its citizens in response to an increased terrorist threat. This is the latest country to speak out and seemingly take action surrounding this.
They haven't done anything, though, have they?
Well, this is it.
Well, first of all, it's only to American citizens.
That's
so
right.
American citizens are not safe, but everybody else is fine. Is that what they're saying?
They say avoid crowded places.
Avoid crowded places? What, like airports and planes? Is that what they're saying? What now? If they say you shouldn't be travelling, or you shouldn't be travelling to certain places, fine. If there is a definite threat, well then close that airport or cancel that flight. But to just give this vague warning means nothing.
They say that attacks may employ a wide variety of tactics.
Well, yeah, I could have told them that. I'm no terror expert, but I could say that they could employ a wide variety of tactics, from the liquid bomb that they're so scared of, so you can't take liquid of a certain amount on a plane, to the shoe bomber. You just have to take your shoes off when you go. You know, they're worried about a suicide bomber. There was the underpants bomber. Remember him? Luckily, you don't have to take your underpants off when you go through. It's free. We have to take your shoes off. You have to take your underpants off. But you have to take your shoes off because there was a shoe bomber, but you don't have to take your underpants off because there was an underpants bomber.
I've got part of this official statement now.
Okay, all right. Okay.
US citizens should exercise vigilance when in public places or using transportation.
Vigilance.
Vigilance is the watchword here.
But what does that mean?
And they need to exercise particular caution during the holiday season as well, with Thanksgiving coming up.
So are they particular caution?
Particular caution.
How do you get on a plane particularly cautiously? Is there a way? Is there a certain steps you have to make? Is there a certain move? You go on backwards so you can see what's happening behind you? What is the technique to exercise caution when travelling through an airport? What is it?
Well, this is the thing that's been criticised by security analysts.
Right, and me.
Yeah,
yes.
And you
actually,
as well.
no. Now I'm a security analyst.
Absolutely,
because I'm criticising the warning.
And they're basically criticised for exactly what you're saying, being so vague, of little practical use,
of no practical use. Really? If there's somebody travelling through an airport in America yesterday, they live in New York, they're travelling to visit their elderly relatives in Florida. How is their behaviour today after the alert going to be any different than if they flew yesterday? Now, the security people may need to do more checks or slow down that conveyor belt or do something. But the passengers can't do any more. You're at the mercy of the people who are in charge of security through the airport, aren't you? Or the flight attendants or whatever, or the sky marshals or whatever it is. Not the passengers. We can't do any more.
Is it just people looking out for dodgy bags? Oh, but that's what we're told to look out for anyway, isn't it?
If I was a cynic, I would be suspecting that the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize, Barack Obama, wanted to get more countries involved in bombing in Syria. And so that there would be more stomach from the electorate for more action, possibly even boots on the ground, which the electorate does not have a stomach for in Syria, I would be saying, why don't we tell everybody to be more vigilant? Then we'll get more people reporting suspicious things. More flights will get cancelled because of suspicious things that turn out to be no problem at all. But because flights are being cancelled and airports are being closed, then people will be saying we need to do more about this situation in Syria. If I was a cynic, I might be going that way. Good morning, Sarah.
Oh, well, you say about your body letting you down and ruining the moment.
Yes.
I'll keep this clean as I can.
Okay.
My husband and I were in the bedroom doing what adults do in the privacy of their own room. Mm-hmm. And in changing position, my knee missed the edge of the bed, and I flew off the bed and knocked myself out on the radiator. Which completely ruined the mood.
I'm sure it did. Now you were knocked out, so you sparked out. So
only very temporarily, but my husband sort of came round to my husband just wetting himself laughing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I know. And it completely ruined the moment. We were in absolute hysterics.
So, Chris, it's the UN Conference on Climate Change.
Certainly is.
Which, let's face it, is a good idea. We do not want to continue to keep pooing in our own nest.
Absolutely not. No.
Unfortunately, it's shrouded by the hypocrisy of politics. Mm-hmm. So, was it 95 countries represented by politicians?
More than 150 world leaders.
Well, I'm sorry, 150 world leaders,
Yeah.
which basically means politicians.
Mm-hmm.
So the people who usually travel to places in 8-cylinder limousines and get ferried from place to place by helicopter, which uses 4 times as much energy as even a plane uses, have flown from around the world on planes to talk about what they can do to reduce carbon emissions.
This was my first thought when I read this story this morning. I thought, these people, they're all flying from all over the world. I'm guessing there may be charter jets, and it's not just going to be them
private jets and everything. Yeah, these are the very people who are doing the most damage per head are now gathered together to try and stop us leaving a light on. Or whatever it is. We actually know what they'll be doing. They'll be looking for more ways to tax us. Because green taxes are such a money spinner. In the UK alone, green taxes rake in £44.6 billion pounds a year. Green taxes.
Just a year.
Yes, and really, the fact that we have to keep having climate change conferences, doesn't that show that the green taxes have failed? So isn't it time for a refund in 44.6 billion in green taxes, because it clearly hasn't worked? The planet is still warming up.
What else can they do?
How about, instead of all flying from all over the world, 150 50-odd world leaders, how about having a Skype conference?
That'd make sense.
How about setting a room aside in each country, one of the back rooms in Downing Street for our mob. They sit in the room, they blank everything out from their calendars, they disconnect from the internet and from the phone so they can't be distracted, and they make them sit there and have a proper conference on climate change. That would actually help. Certainly it would help all the fossil fuels, wouldn't be burned to getting them all there. They could still cater it. They could still have sandwiches and biscuits and whatever other things that they need to have at these things. I don't know. I do have to commend the protesters. Usually climate change protesters are misguided. Usually climate change protesters swallow the snake oil that is, hey, it's all your fault and you all need to be switching lights off and peddling push bikes while we travel around the world and all the rest of it. The truth is, it's down to the politicians to regulate on this. It's not down to people to turn a light off and whatever. It's down to the politicians to make sure electricity is generated cleanly. That's what it's to do with. But this time, they've been banned.
They've been banned? What from around the conference?
From Paris, from the
Paris
city.
completely.
Because the events of Friday the 13th, which no one seems to be calling the events of Friday the 13th, even though that's when it happened, the events, the tragic, horrific events of Friday, they've said now you're not allowed to gather in a public place. The city is still in like special measures or lockdown.
That's right, yes.
So they're not allowed to protest, which is kind of handy. Isn't it? They've like, are we ready to release the ban yet? It's been you know what? We got that big climate change conference. You know what those protesters are like. Tell you what, let's just leave the ban in place till at least after the conference. Okay. So that's just been genius. It's just, on their part, on the French authorities' part, and just so advantageous. But I love, and I've got to give credit to the climate change protesters. I love what they've done. Have you seen what they've done? They can't gather to protest. They've showed up one by one, not as a group, and left a pair of shoes. There are now thousands of pairs of shoes in the city of Paris outside where this conference is taking place. Thousands of them. But no people. So it stayed within the rules. They're not gathering. They all showed up individually, not in a big group, and they've all put a pair of shoes there. It's just fantastic. I just hope they're going to recycle those shoes.
This is Bob.
I'm Graham Mack, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you are, make sure you share it on Facebook and Twitter, and you can subscribe at iTunes. Defence has become attack. And the Prime Minister is saying that we should basically go and bomb ISIS in Syria, and that Britain can't afford to stand aside.
That's seemingly what he said, yeah.
I don't think we are standing aside. I think we're doing our bit. We've got the RAF flying surveillance missions and providing intelligence. We are taking in refugees, which have been the result of the conflict in Syria. And let's face it, the Syrian conflict, it's a civil war. Assad, he's under attack from rebels who are trying to get rid of him. Also from people from outside, the Turkmen from Turkey and the Kurds, they're all fighting him. ISIS are in there too, but they're only one of the factions. And ISIS went there from Iraq. We kicked them out of there with that other war that went so well in Iraq, and they ended up teaming up with the rebels and then falling out with them, and now they're another faction. Basically, it's a problem in that region. But the big five Gulf states who are massively armed and massively wealthy, and I'm talking about Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, they're not doing anything. They've taken no refugees. So, I mean, some of them have taken refugees on temporary work visas, like Qatar, while they build the stadia for the World Cup. But they're going to kick them out when the work dries up. So they haven't taken any refugees. And that's part of this deal. We have. I say we're doing our bit. The trouble with the Prime Minister saying we can't afford to stand aside, you see, one of the reasons why I can't be the Prime Minister is because to be the Prime Minister, you have to be a cold-blooded killer. You have to be able to order the death of hundreds or thousands of people and then go to the cocktail party and schmooze with ambassadors and pop stars. I could not do that. And they're on about this to defend Britain. Well, still, the number of ISIS attacks on British soil is 0. And if you ask them why that is, they'll say because our security services, the police, anti-terrorism, MI5, MI6, have all been doing their job to keep us safe. They've been raiding homes where people are there that could do us harm.
And there's numerous raids.
Yes. So if you ask them, why have we been so safe and not been a target? They'll say it's because of that. Not because of any bombing anywhere. The money this would cost to send the RAF in, wouldn't it be better to spend that money on more security at home? On MI5 and anti-terrorism and more police, but he's cut the budget for the police. Wouldn't that... Surely that's defence, not attack. Or have I missed something?
This is Bob.
When you've witnessed a crime in progress. Gary.
Thought I'd bring a little story to the party this morning for you.
Okay.
Because I know that for a fact I'm the only one alive to have this story now. Everybody else is dead.
Oh.
A few years ago, obviously, my father and and his friends were owed some money by a fella in their local pub.
Yeah.
And the fella was never going to pay them the money, so what they decided to do was, when he was on holiday, they was going to rob his house.
What?
They was going to rob his house of the total value of what they was owed.
Right.
I would say he was probably owed about £20.
Right. Yeah.
So after a few beers, they went round to his house because they knew he was on holiday, and they couldn't get in.
Right.
So they had a brainwave. They looked at the letterbox and thought, I know what. Gary's got thin arms. We'll go and get him. This was about 11:30 at night. We'll wake him up out of bed and we'll drag him down there.
Right.
So they came round, woke me up, dragged me down there. I said, what's going on? They said, we want you to put your arm in this letterbox.
And how old were you, Gary?
Oh, about 10 years of age.
Right, so you got, go on. So they want you to put...
So they want you to put your arm in the letterbox, put it round, flick a door and open the door so we can get in.
Right.
So after about 3 or 4 minutes of me trying to get my hand in the letterbox, they realised it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So this fellow, my dad's friend called Michael, just said, out the way, and then he took 3 or 4 large boots at the door to break the door down.
What?
As he broke the door down, they piled in. Well, they said that they went, right, we're only going to take the value of what we're owed.
Yeah.
Well, kidding you, the stuff that they took, it would be like, you'd get it at a car boot, and at the end of the day, and no one would have it and go near it. It was disgusting.
He had nothing worth pinching.
It was absolute rubbish. But they took it, never mind, and then they took it home, and I remember that being in the front room for years, this rubbish.
Right.
So anyway, a week later, the fellas walked into the pub. So my dad's sitting there with Mick and gone, well, we've got a bit of, got something back off of him. The fella came in, got a beer, sat down and just started talking about his holiday. So my dad went to the bar, Michael's gone to the bar and gone, he's not talk about being broken into, has he?
Ah.
So my dad said, give me the paper, sit down, I'll bring it into the conversation. Right, so when my dad opened the newspaper, he just brought it into the conversation. He said, do you know what? He said, there's another burglary gone on here, like that. To which the fella said, oh, I've got something to tell you. So they both perked up, and he went, while I was away, my next door neighbour got robbed.
No!
They were that dumb, they even got the wrong ass.
This is Bob.
There's a shopper in the news this morning who's proved that you really can have one of these bag for life by reusing the same carrier for 34 years.
34 years.
This must be a record.
Must be.
This is a guy called Martin McCaskey. He's had this bag in his pocket, a neatly folded Tesco plastic bag, made to commemorate the chain's 50th birthday in 1981, in his coat pocket for emergencies.
Yes.
And he's had it in there for 34 years.
Well, this is an example of what's wrong with the world. What's happening in Paris right now? There is a UN conference on climate change. This bloke not been invited.
No.
Right? He should get to speak. Yeah. Instead, we'll just have a load of politicians working out how they could tax us more.
Bob's Breakfast.